Hi, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours. It is Tuesday. It's 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. So we're here to answer your questions about Alexa development, and all the stuff that goes with it.
Hi, folks.
What's awesome is that I'm here in person with Amanda.
Yay!
We actually get to do this together at the same time. So welcome to all of you. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad that we get to do this in person. So as we do, we have this weird table. I keep snagging my arm on it. We have a couple of announcements, and so I want to make sure I bring up our notes just to make sure we get this right.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody hear about widgets? If you guys missed the announcement, yesterday we announced that APL widgets is now available. You guys can go build to your heart's content and build widgets for things like the Echo Show 15 and some of the other larger screen Echo Show devices. This solves a couple of problems that I think are really interesting. We've just dropped a link with the announcement in the chat, but it's important to remember that with widgets comes discoverability, because you can go find the skills that have widgets directly on your device and say, oh, I want to use the skill that gives me that kind of information to keep on my screen all the time. So really check this out. If you're looking for more ways to get in front of customers, I think widgets is a cool way to do it. So make sure you check that out.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I know we use widgets all the time on our Echo Show, so I think we'll have a lot of people like wanting to get a new widget and get their skill in front of more folks.
For sure.
And we're also going to be hosting a live tech talk with Karthik Raghubathy and Kai Lurch on this very topic.
Awesome.
On May 17th at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
So what that means, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
is that you have an opportunity between now and May 17th to get your hands dirty, to bring those hard questions. Hey, I'm trying to do this. How do I solve this problem? So that when Kai and Karthik are on May 17th, you'll have your questions ready for them. Oh, sorry. Also, we want to talk about tomorrow. There is a tech talk at 10 a.m. I believe that's 10 a.m. Pacific time, called Developer Tools 101. This is a session that I just put together. It's a tech talk, but it's focused specifically around some of the tools that you may or may not have used for Alexa development. We talk about things in the developer console. We talk about things in the CLI. And I also cover on things that are in the Alexa Skills Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. So if you're looking for some new tips and tricks on ways you can take advantage of building things inside Alexa Skills, you might want to tune in for that.
That's great, Jeff. Next week, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have Rob Stanbridge, one of our Alexa champions, who's going to be joining us on the show. It's going to be a great conversation. You might have heard that we have some new folks in the Alexa Champions program.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm super excited to meet. And actually right now we're here at Project Voice and some of our champions are here as well. So it's been really cool.
It is cool. And as I bring our guests on from the Developer Advocacy Group, we have Andrew Cargill and Johannes. I want to make sure that we specifically talk about an Alexa champion that we've had a chance to talk with here in Chattanooga. Her name is Julie Daniel Davis. She's primarily focused on the education sector, and she's done a lot of really cool things with bringing Alexa and voice into the classroom. But she also owns a donut shop here in town. It's called Julie Darling Donuts, and I will tell you, there is no better reason to come to Chattanooga than to have some of these donuts. They are fantastic.
Very, very tasty. I had cream filled.
Yeah.
Good.
I probably didn't have just one, but with that, Andrew and Johannes, thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Certainly. So you guys are from the Developer Advocacy Group, and one of the things that I like to do with all of our guests is have you introduce yourself and kind of tell us what your role is here at Amazon.
All right, I can go ahead.
All right.
Yeah. As you can see, my name is Johannes. I've been for quite some time at the Developer Advocacy Group. Originally started out on the App Store side before Alexa was a thing, and then when Alexa started to be an exciting thing, I jumped over to that team and have been there since. And my role now is to manage the global developer advocacy team. We have people both on the US side as well as in Europe, and helping developers across time zones and regions.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here. I mean, you and I get to talk pretty frequently, but it's always nice to hit you with some of the hard questions in front of an audience. So this will be fun. How about you, Andrew?
Hey, I'm Andrew. I, like Johannes, have also been on the developer advocacy team for a very long time, nearly 7 years. It was my first job at Amazon, and I haven't moved, but have been moved around. So like Johannes said, like when I was hired, we were part of App Store, and I and like a couple other people were hired specifically to deal with this new thing called Alexa. First, helping people with like their skill certification results, account management stuff, and then later on moving on to helping developers implement their skills and build things. So a little bit of everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for being here. I'm going to tee up a really good question. Johannes, I want to hear your answer on this because I think I know, but it's nice to hear it like concretely spoken. How does DAG, the Developer Advocacy Group, how do they help developers?
So the number one channel we use is the Contact Us functionality as part of the developer console, where we get hundreds of questions every week from all kinds of questions, from skill building, certification. There's a specific issue. I mean, we can get into some of those, but a huge variety of questions, and that we are then helping and answer with and work with the many internal teams that work in Alexa to work on the best developer experience that we can present to the developers, and that's our starting point, I would say, because that's where we get closest to developers. We hear the direct questions. It's a direct back and forth in terms of communication. But for us, then really, even when we resolve the issue, the work sort of starts, because then the question for us is, what do we do with that information? How can we make sure that the next time this happens, a developer doesn't run into the same problem? Right. What mechanism, what tool can we create to eliminate this issue forever? And that gets us into this sort of cycle that never ends, where we improve or resolve issues, bugs. We some of the internal teams, we get those addressed and resolved. Improve that, then a new feature gets launched. There's new issues. We right. work on addressing those, and so it's this continuous cycle of ideally solve the issues before they even occur. So a lot of the work also goes in when something new is being launched. The team beta tests some new features and so on, so ensure that really they are already, the chances are very high for the fewest number of questions and hiccups to come through.
I have a follow-up question to that. So, I mean, you said that you get hundreds of questions a week. What would you say like the top 3 categories of questions that you get are?
So we have getting started. Generally, how do you? Yeah, I'd say that certification. There's always figuring out how to best get the skill certified, and the things that need to be looked out for, and then skill building and general APL and all the other specific tools.
Got it. So a lot of developers will use Contact Us just to reach out and say, "Hey, how do I do this?"
Yes.
That's great.
That's a lot of the questions.
Interesting.
It could be just to look out for, I have this idea. How do I implement it? Or I'm trying to implement this idea, but I'm getting stuck at this particular point, and I really need to figure out a workaround. Or I have this there's this bug, and I think it's a bug. And sometimes then we can, I mean, it will most likely take some time to resolve the bug, but in the meantime, often we can maybe offer some workarounds, alternatives that can unblock the developer in the moment, and work on the longer term fix in the background.
Cool.
So how do developers access DAG's platform? Is it just the Contact Us feature?
That's right. So number one would be Contact Us, which can be accessed directly from the developer console. You need to be signed in order to be able to use the feature.
I think I have a link for you right there on the screen.
Oh, great.
to get people there if it hasn't already been shared in the chat. But alexa.design/contact us will get you there. Are there other ways, though? Do you guys have email, or are there other directives they can use?
Good question. So the next one would be our developer forum that we have and support. So of course, reaching out via contact us will take some time, right? We will try to get back to everyone as quickly as we can, and sometimes finding the right answer and investigate issues takes time. So if you want to be just like, I just want to get quick feedback, maybe a quicker response, you can go to the developer forum and see, or even before you go, before you post something, search the developer forum. See, is there someone else who's had the same issue? Maybe you'll figure it out then and there already, or you ask there. That would be one path. And the other one is also the developer Slack community, where you can, I mean, and at times, what I've seen, you can get instant feedback from very experienced developers that are just waiting to help and support. So that's.
But you are on the Slack community as well.
Correct. Yes. So you'll see Matt most likely post from the team. If there are any areas where Dak can help with. So yeah, lots of different channels depending on sort of like, is this something that the community can help with specifically? If it's just a bug you need to file, an issue you have, then probably contact us is the best way to go. So it all depends on the scenario and use case.
Yeah. Now, are you guys involved with user voice also?
That's right. So it's the administration of user voice, reviewing the new incoming ideas, requests, upvote. But the change and reviewing those features internally and connecting with the product teams on that.
Got it. Perfect. All right. So Andrew, we've let you be very quiet over there in the corner, but I think it's time to dump some questions on you. So I want to get a little deeper on some of the things that we learn from developers. So can you tell us about a time where like a developer anecdote or a feedback that we got from a developer helped us uncover like a pretty big bug that affected a lot of developers?
Oh my, yes. All right. So I mean, there's a few, but one that immediately comes to mind was so there's a feature within Alexa Skills Kit called the Device Address API. It's actually one of the older APIs in Alexa Skills Kit, and with that, you as a skill developer can request permission from the customer to retrieve either their zip code or their full address as it's defined for their Echo in the Alexa app. So what was happening was we started getting a few contacts from developers saying, not that the API stopped working, but rather that they were just getting zip codes when they would have expected to retrieve full addresses. Right. So this is a scenario that's like, it's hard to notice because you as a developer need to know which addresses you have full addresses for, because if a customer has not input a full address, even if you request the full address, the expected behavior is that you will get the zip code. So they really have to be paying close attention to just sort of notice that their expectations are off. And of course, paying close attention is exactly what those developers did. And once we read their testimony suspecting that something was a little bit off, I was able to put together a test skill with that permission, invoke that skill from a device where I know that I input the full address, and confirmed that indeed they were entirely correct. I only got the zip code.
Yeah. I can't deliver a pizza to a zip code, right? I need to have the full address.
Can't deliver a pizza to a zip code.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like an error message. It was just less information than I would have expected. And with that, I was able to reach out to an internal team. And apparently there was, if I remember correctly, there was some service that was required to getting the full address, which was failing. And it was sort of falling back on just getting the zip code. But it's a great example because like it wasn't even a full outage, but it was affecting everyone, and it just required a few people to notice and tell us.
Yeah.
And we were able to fix it.
Wow.
So is the lesson there that if developers suspect something is acting strange, they
It
should
might
tell
be.
us?
Yes.
Use that, contact us. Let us know
Right.
something if you think something's broken.
I think that's a really common experience, though, as a developer, is like, no. I've got to be an idiot. I'm doing something wrong here. It can't be the system. There's no way that their APIs are just all of a sudden giving me zip codes. Like, I must be doing something wrong. And I can see many situations, even for myself as a developer, where I would not make the phone call. I would not send the contact us thing because I'm like, no, I've done something wrong. The API is reliable and resilient. It's been around for a long time. What could possibly be broken about that? But I think that's good feedback for our audience, that like, if you suspect something's wrong, say something, right? See something, say something. Is that what they say?
Exactly. When I'm
Even if you think it might have been reported before, because if we have like multiple reports of something, then it makes it easier for us to be like, yeah, we probably should look at that.
Exactly.
That's an interesting story. And as a developer that always looks for edge cases, as you were talking about how you can't deliver a pizza to a zip code, I think there probably are a couple places where you could do that. Maybe. I think there's buildings in New York City that are exclusively their own zip code. So maybe you could get by in those specific edge casey situations. Andrew, that is a really interesting story, though. Do you have any others?
Sure. So this is a very niche edge case. So again, another scenario where developer noticed something and they were right. So we had a smart home developer find out that when he verbally asked Alexa only in the app to discover devices, it would tell the user incorrectly that I couldn't find any new smart home devices. And then when they went to the devices tab, it was clear that devices were found. The devices they expected to find were in fact there. And when I first tried to reproduce this, I couldn't do it. So we had to have like some back and forth to figure out like their like system setup. And this particular issue only manifested if you didn't have any physical Echo devices associated with your Amazon Alexa account.
Oh, interesting.
Incredibly edge case.
This wouldn't be the case,
but it was a real problem.
Right. Yeah, most people that are using Alexa probably have at least one Echo device.
Most people do. But a lot of times developers don't. What we find is that it's pretty common for developers to rely on Alexa within the Alexa app, and most of the time that will work. Yeah. And this was just a particular customer experience discrepancy between a physical device and using the app.
Wow, very cool.
So I have a question for you, different question out of left field. Have you built skills, and what's a skill idea that you wanted to build but maybe haven't had the time to build?
I have built skills. One that comes to mind for something I would like to build. All right, so I live in Seattle, and the city of Seattle has an open data portal with lots of API endpoints for a big host of things. Cool. One of those things is like building permits. And like when I go for a walk and I see the land use signs, I like to read about what's being built and what's, coming. So I found out that there's an API endpoint, which is really just a big JSON file in this case, that the city maintains with all the metadata about all the projects and permits, including their GPS coordinates. So given that data, it should theoretically be possible for me to create an Alexa skill that takes my address, converts it to GPS coordinates, compares it against the GPS coordinates of those projects, and from there we might be able to derive the distance between me and those projects to see, what's around me. And then it should be possible to set up like an alert, maybe with proactive events, so that every so often I get sent an update that says, a new project has been filed, and I can figure out what it is and what's going on. Yeah. Or maybe there's a widgets angle there. I haven't looked into that too much yet, but that seems like that might be a better, more passive way to take that.
For sure. But that's like, so what you're suggesting though is that notification might be something like, hey, it looks like you're getting a Taco Bell nearby.
I'm not sure if Alexa would say that, but yes.
Yeah. But that's the kind of data you might expect to find. It's like, oh, they're building on this lot. It looks like it's going to be a restaurant. I wonder what new restaurant we're getting. And then you find out it's a Taco Bell.
Yes. Wonderful. Oh, well, I mean, I'm more a fan of Taco Time, but I won't get into that argument.
Yeah, you guys have much better taco options in Seattle than I do here in the Midwest. So Taco Bell it is sometimes. How about you, Johannes? Is there any time where you've identified like, hey man, this seems like it would be a cool skill. I wish someone would build it.
Well, I don't know if I can come up with a specific use case right now, but I feel for Alexa, I mean, it's been around for a while now, but I mean, there's still so many undiscovered use cases. Now,
Yeah.
I have now a 1-year-old and 4-year-old. So I think lots of use cases. Just when you have kids and watch them through the discovery of Alexa and voice, and being like just first getting the words right and being able to pronounce Alexa. But once that's like 70% successful, there's no stopping it.
Right. Your household is probably driving 90% of the traffic to the part skills, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, we're not there yet, or it's maybe undiscovered. So
I
Do you
gotcha.
do the like the bedtime stories and lullabies and stuff on there?
yeah, the toothbrush song
toothbrush.
favorite.
Tompers?
Mhm. Very
Yeah,
cool.
but it's like I mean all kind of music, and there's there's some odd songs that toddlers find by by voice requests. So I don't want to go too much
Right.
specifics, but I was surprised to see what's out there.
All right. I'd love to hear from both of you because you both, as you said, have been in developer advocacy for quite a while. What's the most rewarding interaction you've had as a part of being a developer advocate for Alexa?
I have something. Well, it's not so much a particular interaction as much as like, seeing someone over time. Like, so back when it was more common to be holding in-person events, those all of a sudden stopped for a while.
Right.
But our team used to participate in those and provide support, and we could meet developers in person. And around 2017, 2018, the audience is basically all new developers who are getting interested in this new thing called Alexa. And in those events, we would be helping them, set up their AWS accounts, explain that when you make a skill, you're receiving some JSON, parsing it, and returning it, the basic big picture type of stuff. But then after the events, I would start to see their names pop up, like in our Contact Us channels or in the forums, asking progressively more complex questions. So in that way, it was sort of possible to see the growth of some of our developers. And kind of knowing that started at a particular event with a particular interaction is very rewarding, I think.
Yeah.
That's a great feeling.
It has, Johannes, do you have a story or anything where you've had a great interaction or a success story?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like being identified. I think when I would going to those events, and we're like, "Are you the Johannes from the forum or from Contact Us?" I'm like, yes. So I really enjoyed connecting with the community in person through those moments, and you just get a bit more information through than from like the Contact Us side. But also over time, I also had developers that come to me and they would just start the Contact Us message with like, "Hey Johannes, so you know you know already."
They thought it was your personal inbox.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm sure Andrew has had multiple of those situations as well. But it just feels I think it feels really nice to be able to connect directly and knowing that we can be helpful. That people take the time and start try to find us as a first point to get the issues resolved.
Got it. All right, we're about to jump into the chat and talk to some of the people in the comments and get any of their questions funneled to you guys. But this question just popped into my head, so I'm just curious. I know that we've had some relatively famous people build skills for their business or for some of the audio and stuff they're doing. Have I don't know how deep you want to get into this, but have you had encounters with what would be considered famous people as a part of this?
I can't say that I've seen any celebrities pop up and contact us making skills. If they did, I'm
No,
not sure I could talk about it. But
Sure.
also, I don't know anybody's name in a movie when I go see a movie,
Oh.
so I might be
Fair.
the wrong person to ask.
Fair, fair.
And it's if it's a developer name, then it could be
It could be anything. That
could
is
be
true.
anyone.
That's fair. That's fair. So you've obviously met lots of celebrities. That's what I'm hearing. Okay. So
It's a secret. They can't talk about it.
Possibly.
right.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I wanna thank everybody that's here in the chat. I see Dana Voice and Habuma. They were our first commenters, and the first thing they had to say was, "Woohoo! Widgets are live." Super excited to see not only that news is true, but also that you guys are so excited to get started on that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody builds there. I see we've got David Curley here, and Prisoner 444 was excited about Julie's donuts.
Yes, I mentioned the donuts.
Man, those donuts are fantastic.
Sorry you're not here. Sorry you missed them.
Right. Now I see that our DAG team, who is also working behind the scenes here during the chat, answered David's question. But I always like to ask these questions out loud just to make sure other people realize these issues are going on. So he said, I had an issue with a skill suddenly not being launched on some display devices instead of website launches, but only on some devices. I waited months after opening a case. The bug was acknowledged and a fix is in progress. I looked a few weeks later and the case is shown as closed. What's my next step here? Can you reopen a case once it's been closed, or would I have to start again? Now, David's been responded to on YouTube, but I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are on that, guys.
So, yeah, I'd say the first thing is when it shows as resolved, there needs to have been a communication to him. So with some next steps, if maybe we sometimes it might be it might just take a while. So we say we've referred this to the product teams. They're working on it. It might be hard to get a specific date for that. So then we say, okay, there's nothing particularly else that we can do here to help. But overall, there should always be a communication via email from us that says what the latest status is. And exactly like David says here, reopen it, or like we said as well, if it's been a while now, it might make sense to look up the original case ID and create a new case and say, I never got an answer, or maybe, I don't know, maybe the resolved case email got lost in the inbox, and then we can share the necessary information for that.
Got it. All right. The next question comes from Dana Voice, and it's about the Alexa Metrics API. The feedback he has is just that it takes forever, and he wanted to know if we're working on it or if there's something going on, because that's not his experience.
Sure.
Are we aware of any issues going on with the Alexa Metrics API right now?
So I personally am not. However, this might be one of those scenarios where all we need is a developer to let us know. So
Okay.
I haven't used the metrics API a lot, so I'm not too familiar with what is, a short or long time to get a response to a particular endpoint. But if they reach out through a contact us page, tell us what API they're interacting with, what response they're getting, what their expectations are, we can pass that along and try to find a more concrete answer.
Okay. Well, hopefully Dana will follow up a little bit later. Gavin Watson, who's one of our regulars here, had a suggestion, and I think we have this. We've published this before. You guys have an email address that people can reach out to, in addition to contact us. Is that correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah. The significant. So the question depends on what do we mean by significant. Is it like a certain feature is not working right now, that's like a critical issue, that's if it's something like that, contact us helps, particularly for us then if we get multiple questions within a short time frame, I don't then we get within 20 minutes, we get 4 or 5 or more, we like, okay, we need to act quickly on this and see what we figure out there.
Okay.
And
we'd had some conversations with the Alexa Skill Insights team, and I thought at some point they provided us with an email address where you can send in like, hey, what do you think about this skill idea? Would this actually be feasible? Would it go through certification?
Right. That's I think I'm not aware which exactly email address that is. I'm
Okay.
sure they provide that, but if it's yeah, it depends on your definition of significant issues. Like
Yeah.
is it something urgent right now? Is it if you're looking more for feedback or an opinion? It's a bit a different use case. And then also the Slack channel is probably the quickest one to be.
Yeah.
Is
People
that
respond really fast.
already noticed? So always a good one to cross check as well.
It seems like an issue like the zip code issue you mentioned earlier was maybe significant to their business, but also sort of hard to detect because it was just unexpected behavior. It wasn't really behaving like it was broken necessarily. So that's a tricky one.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the tricky ones, they will take us some time to figure out, even to do the debugging and be okay.
Just
what
to
exactly
reproduce.
could be going? Yeah, and then it I mean, Andrew, I'm sure you have a long list of things that could be reproduced somewhere and worked fine on the other, and like 9 out of 10 devices work, but the other one not, and then like let's try this. Maybe this issue is only in the UK, and then let's try it there, and so that depending on how tricky the issue is or how isolated it is, it might be pretty tough to reproduce.
Yeah. And Prisoner 4044 had an interesting comment, Andrew, about your idea. He said, wouldn't it be cool if you could just say to your phone or to the Alexa app, what is this project? And it could look at your current location and based on location say, oh, well, you're standing right next to this one. So this is the information I have about the construction that's going on in your city. Be a nice way to use some location services.
Right. Well, there is they might already know about this. There is a different API that you can also use called location services, specifically for like when you're launching a skill through the Alexa app. And if you have that enabled, then you can get the GPS coordinates of that person's phone in your request if they've granted permission to it.
Of course.
Yeah, it looks like that was his follow-up question.
I
But
think so.
Does Alexa for Auto have that as well?
I'm not certain. Our team doesn't handle Alexa for Auto a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would seem reasonable, but I don't know. I don't want to speculate.
The Echo Auto device, as well as I think all of the devices that use the Alexa app as their communications hub. So that's things like the Echo Buds, the Echo Auto, and there are a few other devices that use the Alexa app as their communications. They don't have the ability to communicate without a phone nearby. I believe all of those provide location services because the phone has access to that data.
That would make sense. You're really talking to the phone in that case. Okay.
Yeah, but the Echo Auto is like a standalone device you put on your like air conditioning vent in your car, and the Echo Buds live in your ears, but they're all ultimately routing all that information through your phone. All right, let's see. I got a significant number of questions yet. Dana Voice talking about GPS says, I have a routine that triggers when I get to my tennis club and it tells me to have a good match.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's a nice one.
Nice. I mean, it takes a little of the luster away when you know you wrote that message for yourself, but it is nice to have that kind of reminder.
You know what would be useful? One that like when you go to the grocery store immediately tells you what your list is. That'd be handy. That'd be a good one.
Yeah, there's one that I've always wanted, and I think the grocery stores are just against this. I think they've all they've joined together their powers to make this never possible. But like my local grocery store, I feel like they changed the layout of the store every 6 months or 9 months.
They do that on purpose.
And they do it so you get lost, which I understand. Grocery stores are not that different from casinos. There's no clocks, there's no windows. You're just meant to get lost in the store. But having the ability to sort a grocery your store operates moving forward, and it orders the stuff so that it's in the order you would find it, would be super helpful. My wife actually made a paper-based list of in that order for us, so that when we go shopping, we can very easily find that stuff. But if you don't do that, then you end up just like bouncing back and forth across the store trying to like, okay, now I need cheese, and you run to the cheese aisle. Now I need this, and you're just all over the place. So I wish the grocery stores. I'm a big proponent of all data should be available for everything within reason, right? Security, privacy, obviously take into consideration. But like the layout of a grocery store or where products are, all of that would be super useful. I was just thinking this morning as I was walking from my hotel, I wish there was a way where I could say, I need a Red Bull. Where can I buy one? And it would give me a list of stores nearby where I could do that. That data really doesn't exist. There isn't a list where that I can say, oh, these are the stores that sell that product.
Yeah.
Man, that would be useful though. Anyway, that's just feeding my caffeine addiction. More than anything.
A lot of good chatter about location-based skills in the chat right now.
Yeah. Habuma1 says he's got a skill called Mouse Guests,
Right,
which
Disney.
provides a bunch of stuff for Disney World. And he said you can ask where to find a churro in Disneyland. Well, that's an exception. That you do know the inventory and
Right.
products sold there. But he said he's tested it with the Echo Buds, the Alexa app. There's a cool third-party device called the Talk Socket, which is like a pop socket for your phone, but it's got Alexa built into it.
Oh, cool.
And the Echo Auto.
Yeah.
And he said you have to give permission, but it provides location info. That's super awesome. Actually, if you guys have run into Habuma Craig at an event, he has rigged up his backpack so that he has an Echo Auto that sits on the top of his backpack right here by his shoulder. And so it's running off a portable battery that's sitting in his backpack. And so he's got basically a portable Echo sitting on his shoulder whenever he walks around. It's super clever.
Imagining using Echo Auto in and around Disneyland. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think the Echo Auto device has been deprecated. I don't think we make that anymore, but you can still find them. There were lots made, and I've seen them on eBay and all sorts of other places.
It looks like DAG behind the scenes is reaching out to some folks. So thank you for behind the scenes, Steve.
Yeah, they're digging into the metrics API stuff. That's great. Let's see.
Just scrolling down the rest of our conversation.
Yeah, lots of links and conversations here.
Department stores used to be difficult to leave. Yeah, there's always that. When I was a kid, we were walking through the mall, which, I mean, malls aren't built the way they used to build them, but there was always that moment where you felt like you got fresh air because you finally.
Stores are very difficult to leave. Even when I walked in on my own, I took a right, I went to the section I wanted to go to, I turned around and I'm like, where's the door? I'm always lost.
Somebody attacks you with perfume or something on your way out.
And David Curley said, I remember paper.
Yes.
I was talking about grocery lists on paper.
Oh, I put my grocery list on Alexa now. That's true.
Yeah.
We haven't really used the paper list in a while.
And then Habuma says, I'm just describing a skill that I've been casually working on for a few months. I even took photos of the aisles of my nearest store to build the test data set. And then wouldn't you know it, they changed the layout about a month later. So yeah, that's exactly what I've been casually working on. Yeah, it's
your exact idea.
Those grocery stores, they're notorious, man. And I live about an hour and a half from Kroger's headquarters. And so I know a few people that work there as developers and things. And I told them my idea and they're like, they will never give you that information. There's nothing they ever want to share publicly.
Delivery is your solution, Jeff.
Yeah, it really is. I just need to know which grocery store carries Red Bull. That's all.
There you go.
What if we made that skill for casinos? And then the next time we went to reInvent, we had a skill that lets us actually escape the casino.
It just gives you a little arrow that points towards the door.
Augmented reality.
That'd be great. W. Georgia says there's an Echo Auto 2022 release. Maybe I could be wrong. I have been misinformed before. And maybe there is a newer Echo Auto device that I missed.
Someone posted a link as well.
Oh yeah. That's right. There was a second gen.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Well, that's excellent news.
Well, it's good to keep us on our toes because we don't always know whatever all the devices that are coming out. There's a lot happening. Yes, Vegas, good luck getting out. Yeah, it's such a maze. They're all mazes, but
yeah. My wife and I went to Vegas a long time ago. We've been there a few times since, but we were young and hadn't really been to Vegas a whole lot before, and we walked into Caesars. And we were wandering around. We were just like sightseeing. We weren't really there to gamble. We were kind of walking around, and then all of a sudden, like all the casino had kind of gone away, and we're just walking this long hallway and looking around like there's nothing there anymore. And this old guy in like a full like janitor jumpsuit comes over and he goes, "Can I help you folks?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't think we know where to go," because we couldn't even find our way back to where we had been. And he goes, "Oh, you're really deep in the convention center and there's nothing going on today, sir. So you might want to," he goes, "You just head down that aisle and then make two rights and you'll," but we were lost in Caesars. To this day, I don't think I could find my way back to where that place was.
oh my goodness.
It was like we went through a portal of some kind.
To the quietest part of the city.
Yeah, it was incredibly quiet. All All right. So I think we've gotten to the bottom of the questions. Where I'd love to go, this was my backup filler conversation for Andrew and Johannes, was I have to imagine that there's been some really interesting stories that have come out of contact us situations. And I'm not looking for you guys to provide any kind of identifiable information or embarrass anyone. But I am interested to know, there's got to be some like stories or some situations you found yourselves in that were really compelling or that make an interesting story that you've shared with someone else. And I think those kind of support scenarios are really beneficial for our developers to hear, because it reminds them that, like, I know this feels like it's embarrassing to ask the question, but you should do it because they'll help you and they can help you get past things that, while you wouldn't want to tell your friends that you had to ask that question, it still solved the problem.
I will say the first time I used Contact Us, it was actually a really simple error in my code, and I felt a little embarrassed about it. But you know what? I learned how to use Contact Us. So.
Right. So do you guys have any stories like that?
I'm sure I do. I got to think about it for a second, though.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm kind of putting you on the spot there.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, I don't know if it's particularly embarrassing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Just interesting.
I mean,
interesting
I'm not
wins.
fishing for embarrassing stories.
Yeah.
But there was one point where we had a contact from Amtrak. So, and they were making an Alexa skill. And they were having some difficulty getting the correct station names recognized. And it turned out there was, they just made things a little bit more complicated on themselves than they needed it to be. So like in your interaction model, it's possible to, define the names of the things you expect, but there's also an option to add like identifiers and synonyms. To take an example where I'm from, so Seattle, our station name is, it has a title of King Street Station, doesn't say Seattle in it. So what is someone going to say? Are they going to say Seattle? Are they going to say King Street? Are they going to say King Street Station? Are they going to use the code for the location, SEA? And once you start implementing those things into your interaction model for your slots and synonyms, things drastically improved.
Amazing. Yeah, and so I have to imagine the solution to that was that they had King Street Station maybe as their slot value with synonyms for SEA and Seattle and some other commonly used terms.
If I remember correctly, this was a little while ago. Like everything was its own value, and they could have been tied together as synonyms of each other.
The aliases for slots is really, really useful when you have a couple different things that you want to disambiguate.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's an excellent solve. Nice work. How about you, Johannes? You have any, like, it could just be a fantastic win, like you solve somebody's problem in an uncomplicated to complicated kind of way.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been actively answering the questions directly, so I'm trying to, but probably the specifics will escape me now. So it's maybe more, if anything.
That's all right.
So,
well, one of the other things that we can do while you're thinking about stories, the both of you, is that I'm sure most of the people that are here on the broadcast have their own experiences that are positive, like, hey, they helped me solve this problem, or they did this thing.
Yeah,
I know,
I'm seeing those in chat right now.
I know Joel Work just sent one, but if you guys have your own stories about how DAG has helped, I'm sure they would love to hear those too. It's always refreshing to know that your work is valued. So let's see. Joel Work just said, the team solved a problem I had. It took about 3 months and it ended up being a problem with my antivirus software.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
That's going to be really hard to debug. Wow.
I removed it and now everything works just fine.
Solved a problem I had this week with the dev console. Our engineering team is aware they should be deploying a fix. Well, good. I hope we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Habuma says aliases with phonetically spelled words are great when the real word is unusual or difficult to pronounce correctly. Yeah, I spend a lot of time with my interaction models thinking about that exact problem. Even if it's the word, let's think about the word, there's a city in the UK called Reading, Reading.
People say it reading.
They will not only say it reading, but then I will put in my synonyms not only Reading, but Redding, looking for even those homophonic matches. And it seems to help significantly. So that's been a big surprise for me. You would expect that it can figure it out, but providing those kinds of synonyms, especially with things like acronyms or initialisms, as they can sometimes be called, those go a long way, and sometimes people pronounce them, sometimes people don't. But
in our getting started skill that we did for Lex Learning Lab, there's a way to ask like for a veterinary checkup, and it's kind of subtle. It's not really called out in the text, but you have to put in with a dash, check dash up.
Oh,
because that's how he picks it up, and then put it without as well, just to be on the safe side.
Right.
But I had trouble getting it to pick up because when I would say checkup, it would put it as a hyphenated word rather than 2 words, and both of those needed to be in there for it to pick up if you pause or don't pause.
Yeah, it's only with testing, and you really have to be thorough about this stuff to really nail it down. Gavin Watson, I think, has a positive story here. He says, 99% of the time I have great experiences. The other 1% are the tough ones. I have one open at the moment. Responses are typically quick and positive. I even recognize some names from office hours. Of all the platforms we develop on, Alexa is by far the most responsive and helpful.
That's so great to hear.
Guys, put that in a review somewhere. That is amazing.
Yeah, let everybody know.
Yeah, and there's always occurrences where we don't get it right. Particularly, sometimes it's really hard to anticipate what's the exact issue, and so we don't want to be guessing, right? So then it can end up in some follow-up questions trying to figure it out. Sometimes it's maybe some really like amazing use cases, but really hard to realize. So there's with the current features maybe not possible. But yeah, if you're stuck somewhere or the answer hasn't been really what you were looking for, there's always the option to reopen the case, and so our goal is always to help everyone, and sometimes that can be challenging on the first shot to figure out exactly what's going on, particularly if it's a complex issue.
Right. Yeah. Gavin Watson says he typically just gives me a nudge on Slack too. He'll be like, "Hey, I'm having this issue with DAG, and I'm not getting the answers I need. Can you nudge them for me?" Right. And that's usually when I reach out to your team and say, "Hey, can you guys just take a peek at this and see what's going on?" Because I mean, as you said, you're getting hundreds of requests a week. That's a lot to get through, and make sure that everybody gets the attention they need.
Yeah, that works for us very well. I mean, there's some edge cases that like you said, with the tools we might have some issue or anything like that, and then we can dive into it. We never just resolve anything where we don't have the answer, we don't want to answer it or something. That
Right.
At least there should always be a resolution. The resolution might be we don't know or haven't identified a way how to fix this as a sort of worst case, or maybe we're aware of it, but it will take some time to get resolved.
Do you guys run into a lot of product roadmap issues where you're like, the solution to this problem is an update or a feature request to the product itself? I mean, obviously that's not something that's going to happen today. Our product roadmap is, sometimes 18 months running. So it's interesting to know, like, do you get a lot of situations where the solution to the person's problem is just, we'll have to add that to the stack?
Yeah, that's, I think, where user voice comes in and can be very helpful to get the upvotes for issues, because that really gives us if we say we have hundreds of developers that are looking for this or that, it's much more meaningful. So it's usually where we redirect this, and any ideas on that, particularly when we say, okay, maybe this isn't possible that way, but that they can be picked up through user voice.
And thinking of like a particular example, a lot of times that will come up in the context of like internationalization, like sometimes pretty common for a new feature to be launched for a limited number of language locales, right? And like one that comes to mind is in the realm of smart home. We launched the primitives, which were the range controller, toggle controller, mode controller, originally only for English US, if memory serves. And eventually, it was a matter of, updates and roadmap that was expanded to all locales. But for a period of time, the answer is simply like, I'm sorry, that feature doesn't exist in this language yet. Have you considered this other option? And that's kind of all we could say.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of stuck there. And I certainly understand why Amazon takes that approach, right? We want to make sure that we get this right before we roll it out globally. And starting with an audience that's just the US makes sense. But the problem is developers are global, and they hear like, wait, there's a new monetization option? I want to use that, right?
Yeah.
And so what is your guidance on that specific situation? Because what I generally recommend to developers is if you want to try that, if you want to build on that feature that we just launched, go create an English US developer account and build in that locale. Is that something that you would generally recommend to people if they want to take advantage of that feature today?
I mean, it's certainly not bad advice to, if you want to make use of this feature and it's available in one language, then make this available in that language.
Right.
A lot of times, though, developers are certainly aware of that and they've already done so, and they're just, excited to bring it elsewhere.
Right.
Yeah,
they want to bring it to their home locale, their home language.
Yeah.
That makes total sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have this with many launches, right? Like there's something cool that's out there, and then you're like, oh, okay, and I want to bring this to say to the German audience, and you're like, okay, you got to wait a few more months. I think that's a pretty common use case. The alternative is if you'd have to launch everything for everyone, which then would take way longer. So even though it's frustrating at times to be like, okay, it's only available here, when does it come to my region? I think overall that's still the better approach, because when it comes to your region, you'll usually get version 2 already, which often is much better, and you can launch with a better product once it's there.
Especially with voice and international, I feel like it would be really, really hard to debug all regions at once because of the different languages and everything. It would just be super difficult to get it right every single region at the same time.
Yeah, and I found, especially with the things that are related to monetization, those have to roll out slowly. There are different tax laws and all sorts of other considerations that come into play when we're talking about people making money. And you need to do that in a very deliberate, proactive way, because you don't want to put the developer in a situation where they find themselves with a huge tax burden, but you also don't want to you don't want to start a fight with a government over how you're allocating taxes and things like that. So it does take some time.
Yeah, Amanda, I think you brought up a good point on the languages. Like particularly, I mean, when did we have that? The way numbers work differently in different languages, and where you're like, oh yeah, how hard can it be 25? But in French, it's like completely different story. In German, and so it's not. Yeah, it's with voice, it's not as straightforward to roll this out and then have a different logic for how this is being interpreted by every language model, and then identifying the edge cases and use cases. I think particularly with German we had some issues, and I mean with any language that's being rolled out, you have some issues, and I think German is particularly a tricky one in many cases. So so we had our fair. But we like everything's sorry.
You have a lot of compound words, right, in German?
With compound words and all the articles and the right grammar and getting all of that correct is launching with voice across multiple regions is much harder than it first sounds.
That is for sure. Well, hey guys, I want to thank you for taking the time today. Great stories, great insights, and hopefully a bunch of great resources for everybody that's watching, whether you go to contact us or you go to Slack or our forums or even User Voice if you have ideas for how the product should function in the future. So I want to thank you guys for being here, though. Certainly thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
To our developers, do not hesitate to reach out to us. We're always here willing willing to help and support.
And thanks everybody who tuned in today.
Yeah. Amanda and I are going to return back to a conference we're at. We're actually here in Chattanooga at an event called Project Voice, which is a voice-focused conference. There's people from all over the industry, whether you're in the IVR space, like phone systems, or if you're just in the audio capture scene and you want to think about technology you can use to help people synthesize their voices, like voice actors, things like that. It's a really interesting event, and I was glad that we could be here and also duck away for an hour to talk to all of you. So thank you to Amanda. Thank you to everybody that's watching.
Thanks, Kat.
And we will see you next week. We have Rob Stanbridge, one of our champions, is going to be here chatting with Amanda about all the cool things that he's working on. So looking forward to it, and we'll see you guys all very, very soon. Bye, everybody.